Understandably, most supporters develop an attachment to their team's stadium, but sometimes you need to move into the 21st century, or perhaps just build a stadium that's a bit more fit for purpose. So here are 10 teams from around the world that are doing exactly that. Oh, and so this video doesn't become irrelevant in a matter of months, I've not included stadiums opening in late 2021. Nashville SC have played their first couple of seasons in the MLS at the Tennessee Titans Stadium, which is clearly surplus to requirements, but they were always going to build their own stadium. It would cost around $300 million, which is about how much a new MLS franchise would cost you today, although Nashville cost only half that. It'll be yet another modern boutique stadium in the MLS that is slowly helping it to become an excellent league for stadiums. The brick and iron exterior looks fantastic and the interior is not half bad either, particularly this multi-tiered section. I also like how open air it seems to be, which is important because Major League Soccer is played in the warmer months, and Nashville gets quite warm. Atletico Mineiro, a top-flight Brazilian football club, will be moving from this somewhat iconic stadium that they currently share with another club into their very own brand new shiny football stadium. And more important than the shininess, it's not even that shiny, is the fact that they don't have to share. The external appearance is somewhat deceiving. At first glance, I'd guess that it has a capacity of around 25,000 or so, but it's nearly twice that. This is because it is, or will be, built into a slope, which hides part of the structure. It's probably not one of my favorite exterior designs in this video with those black and white lines, but I've got no complaints with the interior. Although from this image, you can't actually see the seats. Perhaps they all have spikes on them, which I would be firmly against. Guangzhou Evergrande. Perhaps you haven't heard of them, but they are one of China's biggest football teams, and will soon be moving into what will be the largest football-specific stadium in the world. I'm talking about this kind of football before you write Michigan Stadium in the comments. This spectacular design is one of the many brand new stadiums that will be used at the 2023 Asian Cup, but I'll just include this one in the video for the sake of variety. The design of the exterior looks rather spectacular, and if those video screens on the ceiling actually happen, it will be one of a kind. Despite it appearing to be a fantastic design, there has actually been some public backlash in Guangzhou. I'm just kidding. Of course, the Chinese public can't express their opinion. Otherwise, tanks in it. The Waratahs, Sydney FC and the Sydney Roosters have had their old stadium demolished, and this new stadium is currently being built on the same site. Now, this one did actually cause some backlash, because the previous stadium wasn't even that old, being built in the late 80s. You might be wondering, 3 teams? But that is par for the course in Australia. Rugby league, soccer and to a lesser extent rugby union are all popular in Australia. And not to mention we have Australian rules football, which is even more popular, especially down south. The new design shares a few similarities with the old one, not the exterior that looks completely different, but it has a similar capacity and of course those baby blue seats, New South Wales colours, which are shared by the Waratahs and Sydney FC. But wait a minute, a new seat design has just been revealed. It was designed by Tony Albert, an Indigenous artist. I personally think it looks fantastic. It might not be for everyone, but it's a heck of a lot better than plain blue. The San Diego Aztecs of college football are currently playing at this soccer stadium in LA, and previously played at this former NFL and MLB stadium, now demolished. It was clearly a bit big for them, as you can tell by the new design's much smaller capacity. If you're not familiar with college football, you might be thinking, why haven't they included a roof of any sort on their brand new stadium? Well, A, that's the way college football is. There's typically very little covered seating. And B, it's San Diego. You don't want a roof. The weather there is fantastic by all accounts. Although it's not a huge departure from a normal college stadium, I do love the modern touches, such as certain parts of the facade and the asymmetrical seating in some sections, which is a growing trend. AEK Athens have been playing in this stadium from the 2004 Olympic Games, preventing it from becoming a white elephant. But similar to the last one, it's clearly oversized. It also has a running track, something that is despised by football fans. So they decided to build their own football-specific stadium, in their spiritual home on the site of their old stadium. It'll be named after and inspired by the Hagia Sophia, as the club was founded by Greek refugees from Istanbul, or Constantinople as the Greeks like to call it. The very old school inspired design looks fantastic, particularly the exterior. It looks like it's straight off the set of one of those classic movies set back in ancient times. I'm not really a movie buff, but I think the most notable example of a film set in that era is Year One. Just a great film, perhaps the second greatest film of all time behind Lawrence of Arabia. Now to one that's a little closer to home. Yes, I know Australia is overrepresented in this video, but I showed Sydney's stadium, so I've got to represent Victoria. Western United, a fledgling A-League club, have lived a nomadic existence since they entered the league. Their new stadium, as the name of the club suggests, will be built out west, in what is currently an undeveloped area. But Melbourne is spreading like, well, I can't think of a good analogy involving current events to do with something spreading quickly, but it's spreading fast is what I'm trying to say. And the stadium will be surrounded by suburbs in a matter of years. The modestly sized stadium will be made up of a single-tier bowl on 3 sides, and much like Nashville, one multi-tiered section. It's quite simple, but it looks like a perfectly fine stadium for a club like Western United. Now, this one is fascinating. The Bangladesh cricket team as well as Dhaka platoon play a good portion of their matches here. And yes, it's a little rough around the edges, but it's probably the best stadium in the country. You know, it's not a wealthy country, so that's what you'd expect. But yeah. Now, call me a skeptic, but this spectacular boat-inspired stadium is such a monumental step up from any other stadium built in the short history of Bangladesh that I'm surprised that it's actually happening. But it's under construction right now. I'm glad that Bangladesh have what is on face value a world-class stadium coming their way. It's just a bit surprising. Everton Football Club will be moving from a ground that's played a huge part in the history of English football, and it will be missed by many, but it might quickly be put to the back of mind once this spectacular stadium on the River Mersey is built. Although it looks like one of the most modern stadiums there will still be some design elements inspired by the past and the surrounding buildings, including the partially brick facade that features a lattice pattern, an homage to Archibald Leach, who worked on Goodison Park's design. The rest is glass and steel, which have been used in stadium construction for quite some time. They obviously didn't implement it in the same way back in the 1920s. On the inside, it's set to feature a big single tier of seating at one end, akin to Tottenham's new stadium. I quite like that. The Nippon Ham Fighters, no, they don't fight ham, it's the name of the company that owns the team, will be moving from what is on face value a fantastic stadium. But they're a baseball team and it's a multi-purpose dome stadium. It's just not ideal. They've started building this extraordinary stadium, which still has a roof. Very important for this part of Japan, but it's retractable, which allows for a natural grass field. Not only that, but the amount of glass used beyond the outfield wall allows for plenty of natural light, both to help the grass grow and to improve the spectator experience. Nobody wants to sit in a dark dome during the day. I really look forward to this one. It looks likely to be Japan's best baseball stadium. And that's it for today's video. Yes, of course there are other teams moving to a new stadium soon. If you leave your suggestions in the comments, perhaps we can make a second part. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, have a good one.